This podcast is not meant to be professional advice of any kind. It is meant to be informative and entertaining. If you make any changes to your life, see the appropriate professional before you do so. Welcome to Super Age. My name's David Stewart. I am the founder of Ageist and your host on the Super Age Show. We talk about how to live healthier, how to live longer, and how to be happier. And who doesn't want that? Today's show is brought to you by Inside Tracker, the dashboard to your inner health. Go to insidetracker.com/ageist, save 20% on all their products. Today's show is also brought to you by Timeline Nutrition with their breakthrough product, MitoPure, the first clinically tested urolithin A supplement, which is showing tremendous results for mitochondrial health. Go to timelinenutrition.com/ageist, use the code ageist at checkout, and save 10% off your first order of MitoPure. Today's show is also brought to you by Element, LMNT, my favorite electrolyte mix. It's what I put in my water in the morning, and it's what I put in my water at the gym. Go to drinkelement.com/ageist and receive a free 8-serving sample pack with any purchase. Welcome to episode 143 of the Super Age Podcast. This will be dropping on July the 19th, 2023. This week, I am in the city, as in New York City, and it is an amazing place. We're staying downtown in Soho, a neighborhood that I lived near or in for maybe 25 years. I know it very well. It's an amazing, I just love New York. There is no place on earth like New York. There are a lot of great cities out there. There are a lot of great towns, but everything else is sort of second. What can I say? It's great to walk around out here on the streets. And really, almost everybody I know is not here. So all of my friends, a lot of the people that I've known for decades, they're like all smart people who live in New York. They leave this time of year because the weather is not so great. But I don't mind it. I'm just here for a couple of weeks. So yeah, it is like 90 degrees and 80% humidity. And that can be a little uncomfortable and the thunderstorms in the afternoon. But so what? It's great. The range of people that you see in a couple of blocks in New York, like, exceeds pretty much anything you could ever see in any city of the world. And, you know, one of the things I love about New York, and, you know, I'm going to give credit to Taylor Swift here. She put out a video a few weeks ago about how great New York was, because you just never know. New York is so compressed that you can do 2, 3, 4 things in a night or a day, and you never quite know where these things are going to lead you. It's fairly easy to get around, especially if you're in a neighborhood like this, and the activities you want to participate in, or the meetings you're going to, or whatever. It's all like walking distance. It's easy. Whereas Los Angeles, and I love Los Angeles, an amazing city, you can't do that because the traffic is just so utterly dysfunctional. You can do like one thing, and you got to plan that out way in advance to make sure that happens. Otherwise, you're going to spend, eons in your car. So, but LA does have the weather, and it's kind of great. So for any of you out there who have been following the saga of my knee, this has been going on for about 6 weeks. I had an MRI done back in Salt Lake City a few days before we left for New York. And I got a call yesterday from Dr. Max, who's my sports medical guy. Max is the sort of guy you want on your team, because Max was the team doctor for 28 Tour de France's. So Max knows a lot about sports stuff. So Max gives me a call, and I'm expecting something like, well, David, you strained a tendon or something. You need to sort of relax, put some ice on it, and everything will be fine. Well, that's not what happened. I got a 10-minute list. The notes I took on this, it takes up an entire page of paper, of all the things that are going on with my knee, none of which are good. I've got an oblique tear in my medial meniscus. I've got a smaller posterior tear in my meniscus. I've lost about half of the cartilage in my knee, which apparently isn't bad, but it sounds pretty bad to me. There's this matter of an ACL that seems to have been torn at some point and was never repaired. I had no idea of this. And a few other things there. So the adventure continues. Luckily, most of the time I live in Park City, and if you got a problem with your knee, that's where you want to be, because guess what? The U.S. ski team is there, and the best knee repair people in the world are in Park City. And so I'm seeing one of these people on the 31st when I get back to find out, like, what are we talking about here? How bad is this really? And I asked Max, like, it's like, oh my God, what are we talking about? Like knee replacement here? And he's like, no, I mean, there's sort of a range of things, but we need somebody who does this sort of work all the time. And there's something called a clean out, which sounds really kind of gnarly, but I don't know. I'm not even sure what they clean out, but the recovery process is like a week, or, if they have to go in there and do something about all this missing cartilage, well, that's like 6 to 8 weeks. And, God help us if they got to do something about this ACL problem. That's a whole other matter that I'm really hoping we don't go there. So what I have been told by people, after this diagnosis, of course, I was like more than a little freaked out. And I called up some of my medical friends, and they're like, well, listen, like, you're a 64-year-old athlete. This is not all that rare. Like this, what you're describing here can, happen to people in their 30s or early 40s, and you're holding up nicely. So there will be more information on that in a couple of weeks as I find out more from Dr. Cooley, who is the major domo knee guy in Park City. This week on the show, we have Julia Linn Olson, who is known on Instagram as Dolphining. And we've had Julia on in the past, and we're having her back because she's got a book. And you've got to check out her Instagram. She has such an inspirational story for all of you out there who may be suffering under the delusion that you're 50, 60, and it's sort of game over. There's nothing you can do. Not true. Very much not true. Julia has had double organ transplant. She's had triple heart bypass. She had childhood diabetes, all kinds of issues associated with that. She was predicted to have a very short life, but she had some sort of miraculous operations and saved her life. But at around 60, she just said, like, hey, I got to honor my body. I'm not really happy with the way things are going here. I'm overweight. I feel sluggish. I got to do something. And she did something, and she utterly transformed herself. Why? Out of love for herself, out of respect for her body. And she's a wonderful person. I'm actually going to have dinner with her next week. We, because of COVID, for a long time, you didn't really actually get to meet people, but I'm going to get to meet her next week. I'm super psyched. So we're going to get with the amazing Julia Linn Dolphining in just a moment after a quick word from our sponsors. The first sponsor of today's show is Timeline Nutrition with their breakthrough product, MitoPure. We all know how important mitochondrial energy is, and especially maintaining muscle and strength as we age. Urolithin A, which is found in MitoPure, has been clinically proven to increase muscle strength and endurance with no other changes in lifestyle. Urolithin A is essentially upgrading your body's cellular power grid, giving your body the energy it needs to optimize. I've been using MitoPure for a few months now, and what I can tell you is there is a noticeable change in the way my muscles re-energize after I use them. What that means is, say I'm involved in some intense activity in the gym or maybe some sporting activity. Normally, the next time I did it, I would be kind of tired. I would be sort of gassed out. That doesn't seem to happen with this. And all I can imagine is because my mitochondrial grid has essentially been upgraded, it's not just my muscles that are getting upgraded, it's all the other cells in my body because they're all powered by mitochondria. Go to timelinenutrition.com/ageist, use the code ageist at checkout, and save 10% off your first order of MitoPure. Today's show is also brought to you by Inside Tracker, the dashboard to your inner health. On June 29th, Inside Tracker officially added insulin as one of the biomarkers they test. Inside Tracker has made great strides this year in adding biomarkers like ApoB, which is critical for heart health, as well as 3 hormone markers that are especially important for addressing symptoms related to aging. Now Inside Tracker has added insulin, which is the key biomarker for sustained energy and an early warning for several chronic diseases. Go to insidetracker.com/ageist. Save 20% on all their products today. So keeping with the Quick reminder, after my conversation with Delphine, otherwise known as Julia Linn, stay tuned for Just Try This, and that'll be right after my conversation with her. But right now, let's give Julia Linn a ring. Hey, Julia, how are you today?
I am so good. How are you, David?
I'm great. It's good to see you again. You have
You
such,
too.
this is audio, but you have such a great smile.
Aw,
It's
thank you.
really lovely.
Thank you.
So we've had you on before, and some people know a little bit about you, but you have this new book called My Power Decade that I think is just brilliant. Tell me a little bit about your history for people who don't already know.
Okay. Well, I have a long history of dealing with body issues, medical issues, diabetic at 11, very brittle. I'm 66, so I was diagnosed in the 60s when they didn't know anything about juvenile diabetes, or they just knew you took one shot a day and hoped for the best. Well, by the time I was in my early 20s, I was going blind from diabetic retinopathy. And then my late 20s, my kidneys started to fail, heart disease developed. By the age of 34, my doctor said, you've got to be on dialysis. Your kidneys are failing in the next few weeks. You got to get ready for dialysis. But thing is, you're probably not going to live to 40 because diabetics on dialysis have the same prognosis as someone in stage 4 cancer. That's the best they could offer me. But they said, we are doing experimental pancreas transplants with kidneys to our diabetic patients who need it. Of course, kidney transplants were normal back then, or more common, but the pancreas transplant was not. They'd only done about 2,000 in the world. And one of the surgeons who perfected the technique and studied with Thomas Starzl, who is like the godfather of organ transplants, from Pittsburgh, he did my pancreas transplant. And they said, we'll do this, but you could die, you could have a stroke, all these things. And I just thought, I can't live with diabetes anymore. Yes, I could go on dialysis, reduce my risk of heart attack, stroke, and all of that he was saying, but I could not live with diabetes anymore. So I took the risk and got the double organ transplant. And I'm celebrating on July 27th, 32 years of additional life because of my organ donor, Gina, who died in a tragic car accident in Colorado. And I will be forever grateful. This is the biggest blessing in my entire life. And I guess it was 4 years ago, I realized at age 62, oh my God, in 2 more years at age 64, it's going to be a 30-year anniversary. And that's when this switch flipped in me. And I'm like, I have to get in the best shape of my life. I need to honor this life. I need to honor my donor. I'm so grateful to be alive. So I started lifting weights.
Let's put some numbers on this. So talk to me about I don't like the weight discussion so much, but it's a metric, right? So
it is a metric. It is.
Talk to me a little bit about your body composition, where you were at, what your physicality was like, if you can, before you started.
Yeah, that's really important because I think more people can relate to that when they know. I had periods of yo-yo dieting my whole life. I had periods of came from a sports loving family, so it's very athletic, but it was, stop and start. And my weight, I'm 5'1", and the highest I ever got was like 145. And at age 62, I was probably at about 142. And after working out, it took me 3 months to lose 10 pounds, but I kept at it. And after a year, I got down to 126, and I thought, I want more of this because I was feeling so good. It was really not about the way I looked. It was about my health. And when I made that my vision and my target, and not, I want to lose weight, which is a shallow goal, fat loss was a side effect. And with muscle gain, my whole body suddenly knew what to do with food because I was gaining muscle, and muscle is the best part of our metabolic pathway that knows what to do with food. And so I just kept working out because I loved it. I was training with a coach. And he suggested I do a bikini competition. I'm like, what? I don't think so. No, I'm 63. I'm not getting on a stage in a bikini. But I actually did, and I won. And it just sort of started this whole experience for me of knowing what my body could do. And more importantly, let women know who are 50 plus, struggling with menopause, struggling with self-esteem, struggling with their body issues, to see me, double organ transplant, triple cardiac bypass, no thyroid, to see me like strong and muscular at 66, 65, they suddenly thought, she gives me hope. She can do it. I can do it. To me, that is the biggest gift I can give out of all my experiences, to let other women know this is possible. Don't limit yourself.
Yeah, we need inspirational role models, and you are one. Absolutely. I want to circle back to the weight thing, because I mean, the weight thing is just a really easy metric. We can all sort of know what that number is. But the main number is the body composition. That's the name of the game. It's not how much you weigh. And the way you went about this was diet and exercise. And there's a lot of stuff out there with Ozempic and some of this other stuff. I've had somebody on the show earlier about this. I have some very strong feelings about this because it doesn't do what you did. It's not, what you're doing is you're losing muscle along with the fat, and what you're losing resilience. As you said, your muscle is the biggest glucose sink in your body. It's what metabolism is, right? It's like your muscle burning fuel. I just want to be clear with people on that this is not about just like stepping on a scale. It's something quite different from that.
Exactly. And like you said, that's one metric. Another metric is your mood better? Are you sleeping? Yeah. Are your clothes looser? And the thing about Ozempic and all these new little things that are out there and people are talking about it is that the diet industry, the toxic culture we live in about diet and women's bodies and men's bodies, knows now, we all know low calorie, high cardio is not sustainable. And I feel like that industry has said, okay, here's another quick fix. How about a shot? How about you take a shot and it makes you so sick that you don't want to eat food and you lose weight? How about that? No. I mean, I just feel, first of all, it doesn't deal with mindset issues.
Right.
And that's the big driver to me of body issues. Whether it's dysmorphia, it's obesity, which they now call like class 3 obesity. Instead of morbid obesity, it's class 3 obesity or anorexia or eating disorders or any of that. Everything comes back to what is your mindset. And the only thing that works, and this is what I discovered, and as a coach, this is what I teach, is common sense, be patient, go slow, listen to your body. Everybody's different. If you want to do keto, do keto. If you want to do macros, do macros. If you want to do portion control, do that. Everybody's different, but it has to be a common sense approach, a day in and day out, positive, repetitive action that you honor your body, you love your body. It can't come out of this, I hate my body, I'm disgusted. That's where the quick fix comes in, where I can take Ozempic and I can lose weight in a couple months. It's not sustainable. It'll make you sick. I just don't understand why people don't, because they don't change their mindset. That is what I understand. They don't change their mindset.
I think what you're describing here is sort of a circle of shame. I mean, anybody who's listening to this, we all know that like eating cupcakes in the morning, bad idea. Like we just know that. Yeah, our mothers told us that when we were 5, right? Don't do that.
Right.
But then if we do it because we're going to feel happy for about 10 minutes, but then inside we know we shouldn't have done that. We self-shame by doing that, and then we do more. But the reverse is also true. So every time we take a positive action, it's reinforcing in our minds, we're taking care of ourselves. We value ourselves. We are worth this. So I'm eating food that's health positive. I just made that up. I don't know if that's a term, but I just, just made that up. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to make sure I get good sleep. I'm going to take care of my stress. Each one of these is the opposite of that shame cycle. It's like you're patting yourself on the back and say, oh yeah, you're worth this. You can do this. Like, I believe in you. I don't know. I'm just making this up.
No, but
Does that make sense?
Oh, it's lovely, David. That's so true. And then the self-trust builds. It builds on itself. And, I was thinking about this morning how we are born with a best friend, and that best friend does everything for us, is there all the time. And as we get older, we take that best friend for granted. We don't listen to it. We abuse it. We ignore it. What's that best friend? It's our body.
Yeah.
And we treat it like a piece of crap. And then we feel like crap. That becomes normalized. Most people don't know how sick they are until they start making those changes and they start feeling better. And they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then that's the feedback loop that keeps them in that cycle that you're talking about, like aligning with a choice that is honoring your body and loving your body and taking care of your body.
I've been thinking a lot about this lately, about how in 1960, it was fine to have 2 martinis and at lunch and smoke 4 packs of cigarettes a day. Totally socially acceptable. I remember riding in a car with my mom, who would smoke with the windows rolled up with 2 kids in the car because she didn't want to mess up her hair. And God forbid a seatbelt because it would wrinkle her dress. Now that today, you call the police on somebody like that today.
Right.
Like this is like, no go. Right. I'm still alive today. I'm fine. But that was okay then because it was socially acceptable. And this is something that I think about a lot. What is socially acceptable is not necessarily a good thing for you. Just because people say it's okay doesn't mean it is okay for your, especially for your body, for your organs. Like what you discovered was, before you started this, it was probably your friends were like, you're fine, Julia, yeah, whatever. But it's not fine.
Right. You're feeling sluggish.
Yeah.
You're not feeling well. And for me, it just really went back to that sense of being grateful to be alive. And, I was born in 1957. My mom was only 23 years old, or just had turned 23 when I was born. And she went to the hospital thinking she was going to give birth. And she and my dad had been out to a party that night. And they got to the hospital and she got so sick. I wasn't born, but she got sick. And all their friends were like, what did you have? What did she have? And my dad said she had pizza and beer because she had thrown it all off.
Right.
And had been smoking all night. So this drinking and smoking, I'm one of those 50s babies. I survived. We all survived, but the social acceptability on the one hand is in a way a herd instinct. It's like people don't think for themselves. They are so concerned about what other people think. They go with whatever's done commonly rather than what do you need? And not caring about what people think. I get fit shamed all the time.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Right.
That's insane, which I think is insane.
It is insane.
I get shit all the time about this.
Right. And I think it comes from a lack of knowledge that people have. They think they're stuck and they see someone fit like you or me, and it reminds them that they're not, and they also don't have the will to get there. And it's kind of like, how dare you? How dare you be healthy in front of me, or whatever it is. I think it threatens people.
I tell people, like, you can live however you want. Like, I'm not telling you how to live.
Right. No
whatever
judgment.
Whatever you want to do. If if you're happy like this, do it. If you're not happy and you want to change, I can show you how to do that. But I'm not telling you have to do anything.
Right.
And sometimes I get grief from people about, like, why don't you just like live a little and have the pancakes in the morning? It's okay. But to me, I do that because I don't do it because then I don't feel good about myself when I do that. Even though it's even before the like glucose nausea hits me, I just know like, this is wrong and I shouldn't do this. And I feel bad about myself for having made that decision.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is what I do. So I was in a competition 2 weeks ago, and then I was in New York City. And so you really are super strict leading up to a competition. So I knew, being in New York with my husband, we were going to eat some really good food. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I overdid it, but I enjoyed it. And it took me about a week and a half for that inflammation and that water retention to leave my body. But you know what? It was worth it because I enjoyed it. And I've learned not to guilt myself about it. But I also don't ever do, it's not a regular thing with me. It's not like every weekend I indulge in something that I know doesn't make me feel good. This was like a once a year thing. And I knew going in, okay, I'm not going to feel great, but I'm going to enjoy it. And I think part of that also reinforces this lifestyle I've chosen, and every choice I make to align with being in a healthy body. It's like, all I have to do, once you know you can have anything you want, you don't want anything you want. You know what I mean? It's like you have it and okay, that was great. I enjoyed it, but it's not worth having every day. And it's just a reminder for me that to take care of my body takes planning, food prep, knowing that I have a reason for doing it and that I enjoy doing it. It's, it makes me feel like every day I've accomplished something in a positive way. But I do make allowances for, like, people ask me, don't you ever have treats? Yeah, I have treats. Yeah, of course I do. But it might be a quarter piece of the carrot cake. It's not going to be the whole thing,
Right.
and that might be once every few months. It's a personal choice, and also knowing how your body reacts. And I think that's the important thing. And so the whole guilt and shame thing on myself, I had that for so long from childhood trauma and everything that I just thought, okay, we're done with this. It's just too exhausting. And that made a huge difference in also my self-care and my self-love and being able to help other women get beyond that self-flagellation. So hard on yourself because you would never treat a friend like that. Or if you have kids, you would never shame your kids like that, right? But we do it to ourselves all the time.
I think what you're describing is the difference between conscious living and unconscious living.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So rather than just like unconsciously plodding along, putting whatever is in front of you into your mouth and doing whatever, but being conscious about like, okay, I'm eating this because of a reason that I'm eating this, right?
Right. And also that approach works for my body and my mindset. But for someone like you, it's like, no, I'm not willing to pay that price of feeling like crap, and you, if you know that going in and you do it anyway, I can understand why that would be like feeling awful because you made a choice knowing you're going to feel like crap. Then you feel like crap and you're like, why did I do that? So obviously what works for each person is so unique and there is no right way or wrong way. Our bodies are way too different.
I want to emphasize this idea that, there are all these like diet books out there, like you were saying, like, oh, there's the keto, the vegan, the macro, the this, the that, the blue zones, what maybe it's the purple potatoes. I don't know. It's all nonsense. It's like, because everybody we're all so different. There's so many, the genetics, your biome, like your level of activity, your age, your hormones, your enzymes, all this stuff. You know what I wanted to ask you about was we have sort of shame on the one end of the scale. And then something that I really enjoy doing is the other side of the scale, which is celebration. Since I don't have oftentimes people around me to like congratulate me or celebrate things with me, I do it to myself.
Love that. That's so great.
You do that?
You know what I do? People say, oh, you must be so proud of yourself. And I'm proud of what my body has done.
Yeah.
I'm from the Midwest and we don't want to draw like that kind of attention. You know what I mean? We don't want to, it's like we're taught not to inflate the ego. And so to me, that always feels a little bit like that. But but I can feel gratitude. To me, that's a celebration, like being really grateful. That's a celebration.
I'm going to tell you a secret about what I do. Somebody told me this trick. So if I do something, what I do is I take my left hand and I pat myself on the right shoulder and I say out loud, I say, good job.
I love that.
And so if I'm at the gym and I do something sort of like a good workout and I was like, okay, you did what you're supposed to do. Then I pat myself on the shoulder. I say, good job, buddy. And
That's fantastic.
and it works.
I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that. Because there are also times where I hug myself.
Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that, David. I'm going to try that.
I think who told me that BJ Fogg, the behaviorist, I had him on, and he was talking about prompts and celebration and how we have to celebrate things. And he's very overt in his celebrations, much more so than I am. I just pat myself on the back and say, yeah, good job, buddy. But he jumps up and down, and he has a special word that he says. And
yeah, that's fantastic, because it's all that positive energy and affirmation for self, which is a part of self-love and caring enough about, who you are and celebrating who you are. I guess in a way, celebrating who we are is really important,
Yeah.
It's really important. I was talking to someone the other day and she said, I'll be really honest with you. I have a really hard time with self-love. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And I said, can you remember when you were a little girl? And this woman is amazing. I said, you were probably this sweet, curious, delightful little being that everybody loved. Do you remember being that way? And she goes, well, kind of. And people told me I was that way. I said, love her. Love that part of you. And if it's hard to love, the self-love, just feel worthy, get that self-worth feeling going. And I think so many of us, and I think this is where the whole body issue comes from. And one of the reasons I wrote my book is from the trauma we experience as children and the information we take in, and we make it reality when it's not. It's just somebody else's stuff that's stuck on us because we're sponges, we're so open to everything, and it shuts us down in a lot of ways. And I think women in my era, we've struggled with major body issues. I was at a competition, an earlier one where, bodybuilding competition, bikini competitors were all backstage, all age groups, 20 to 70 women in age. It feels ageless. Anyway, I was talking to this young lady who actually won first place for, I think she was in the 20-year-old division. And we were talking and she's like, yeah, I really wish my dad, who's your age, would go to the gym. And I said, well, he can. I said, I'm 66. And she said, you know what? Your generation had a really hard time. I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, my generation, we talk about mental health issues. We talk about bulimia, anorexia, eating disorders, body dysmorphia. She goes, your generation never talked about that. And I was like, whoa, that's a truth bomb. We didn't talk about it. People suffered in silence. And that's all a part of the baggage women, baby boomer women, I believe, and women 50 plus have carried all these decades. And talk about smoking and drinking while you're pregnant or you got kids in the car or whatever. That whole thing just was never even addressed at all. It was one of those things. It's just the way it is. People didn't talk about it. And they really do. These younger girls are really in touch with those issues, as well as the body shaming, which I think, there's a lot of very overweight women who are going to live longer than the super skinny ones who are obsessive about food and lifestyle and, exercising. So even that has nothing to do with health. Very curvy women actually are probably the healthiest ones just from evolution. They have bodies that can bear children. They're healthy. They have muscles, their body works. And but we've made that a bad thing. I think a curvy woman is so gorgeous, and the really skinny, hard, muscular ones, not as attractive, at least in my eyes. And when I first started competing, I was too skinny. I had no muscle. I was just too skinny. And I put on more muscle, and not only do I feel better, but I feel like I look more normal, especially when I'm not in the competition season. Because what you look like on stage, you don't walk around all year like that. That's not healthy. I've also decided not to compete in a federation where women dope. They take steroids for muscle growth, which again, that's a personal choice and no judgment. But I can't and won't do that. So why am I competing against those that can? Because I'm never, and there are natural bodybuilding federations where they actually drug test you. So there's a place for everybody and for everything. And there's no judgment there. It's like we have a choice. You have a choice of diet. You have a choice of whatever, body composition. And people ask, well, what do you think the best diet is? And I don't like that word diet. It's more nutrition. But I always say the best one is the one you can follow.
Yeah.
That's good for your body. And maybe that means they don't eat carbs, or maybe it means they're completely plant-based, or maybe it means they're eat all, animal protein. Like, how could you tell someone that's not good for you if you're not their doctor and you don't have the inside scoop on their health scenario?
Eat for who you are and for the day that you're having.
Right.
If I'm going to go to the gym for 2 hours, I need 3,500 calories.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
If it's Sunday and I'm laying on the sofa reading the paper, it's more like 2,000.
Yeah.
It varies. I love what you said about younger people. We have a couple of younger people here that I work with, and I learn so much from them. Their sort of openness, their flexibility, a lot of the stuff that you and I didn't even realize we were so uptight about until we presented with this other way of being. It's like, oh, yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So what are some things you've learned from the young people?
The mental health stuff.
Yeah.
Totally open. The value of freedom. Freedom is probably the highest value, more than money, more than things, more than jobs. The idea to control your own time and your own life, I think, is very important. I just read a thing in the Wall Street Journal the other day about how hearing aids, there's like no stigma for younger people. For them, it's just like, oh yeah, well, whatever, I wear a hearing aid, or, and I think it's partially because we've all, like, especially for them, they've had phones and earbuds their whole lives. So it's like no big deal to put something in their ears. But this idea that someone has some kind of a handicap, I wear glasses. Okay. Like, nobody makes fun of me for it. I mean, they made fun of me when I was like 10, but nobody says anything now. So glasses are fine. But for them, hearing aids are totally fine. There's like no, like, whatever. I wore Invisalign for about 6 months this year to correct my teeth, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of viewpoint on these things, I just love.
I do too. And what they're doing is they're putting importance on things that are important and not putting importance on things that have no bearing on anything. On it. So the sense of values and their self-value and how they look at others and value others is really pretty enlightened, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we as a species.
Yay, young people, we love you. Yeah. I'm clapping my hands. Even though this is the ageist magazine.
I know. Well, but hey, ageism goes both ways, right? Like,
yes.
Like, why should we be prejudicing as younger people just because they're younger?
Exactly.
They have really interesting things to say. And I'm kind of smart about some things, but my team is like way smarter about a lot of stuff than I am. So I listen to them. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so great. Such a good point. Really good point.
Talk to me a little bit about what was the difference in like what you were eating before to how you eat now? Were there things that you found work for you? And I'm not saying this is going to work for anybody else, but I'm just saying, like, for you, I'm curious.
Yeah. Well, I think you said it earlier. I was not a conscious eater. I was whatever was convenient, whatever looked good, whatever I felt like. And, my husband and I have lived all over the world. We were in the Middle East for 4 years, in Saudi Arabia. We were in Mexico. We lived in Italy for a while. And it's like, I just ate what I wanted to and sampled all the goodies and just enjoyed food without any thought of, I wouldn't overdo it. I wouldn't eat myself till I was like on Thanksgiving, we tend to overeat and you can't even button your pants. But I didn't give it a lot of thought. I thought I was making good, healthy choices, not eating too much. But you know what? We hit menopause. Your body is not responding the same way. And so what changed for me was a very deliberate experimentation of tracking my food to make sure I was in a calorie deficit, and then finding out what foods had an adverse effect on my body. And I found out that dairy plugged me up. It caused inflammation. I would get plugged sinuses and feel lethargic. I found that wheat in bread and bread products didn't agree with me. I tended to also experience inflammation and water retention, and too much fruit. Like the only fruit I can eat are berries. Watermelon bloats me. I mean, it's like, and apples are too high glycemic. It spikes my blood sugar. So what I did is I used my body as a lab and experimented with what foods made me feel the best. And I kept a tight lid on how much I ate of what, and I tracked it. And I get these messages from women that say, I go to the gym 5 days a week. I eat healthy, and I've not lost weight in 3 or 4 years. And I'm like, okay, something's not working. And I would guess it's your food, because if you're not tracking, if you aren't conscious of everything you put in your mouth, you're overeating. And if weekends come and you're like, okay, I'm just going to enjoy myself, and then you add alcohol in, which has no nutritional value. We enjoy it. It's fun, whatever. It enhances your experience with food. But if that's a habit, that's going to stop you from fat loss. So I just feel like what I did was go from being unconscious as an eater, like I'm free to do whatever I want. I'll eat healthy. I'll watch that I don't eat too much. No results whatsoever that I wanted. No effect in my body that was positive. 2, let me see exactly what I'm putting in my body and what it does to me. And let's start making choices about not having that, not having that. And I don't believe in ripping off the Band-Aid. I believe you taper things down. Like if somebody has 2 glasses of wine every day, don't go cold turkey. Just start having 1 glass of wine. Then maybe 1 glass of wine every 3 days. And then maybe 1 glass of wine every other weekend. Give your body a chance to let go of that habit and then see how you feel. And a lot of people that I've worked with say, oh my God, I don't even like wine now because I don't like how it makes me feel. But it wasn't because somebody told them you can't have that. They use their body as an experimental lab. I love that approach, because you're the expert. You are your own self-healer, period. You got to figure it out. And so I think that was the difference for me. I took responsibility for everything I put in my mouth and tracked it and kept a record of how it made me feel, how much I ate. And now I know how much I need to bring things down if I want to shave off a couple pounds or I want to put on a couple pounds. I know exactly what to do. And my body responds now because I've treated it well nutritionally for 4 years now.
Thought that keeps coming to mind here is self-responsibility. I'm in a place where I don't live. So there wasn't a lot of food here. So I went to the Smile to Go down the street, and I just had like an awesome turkey sandwich.
Yummy.
Feels really good.
Yeah, food in New York's amazing.
Hopefully I'm going to go to the gym in a couple hours. But this idea of we are responsible. we can't offload this onto others. And it's nobody put the cupcake in my mouth. I did that.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Right.
And I think what you said, this idea of like sort of tapering down so our bodies become sensitive enough so that we can feel how things feel. And if we're in a state of like really high inflammation and, very poor health, we're eating really high glycemic food all the time. And there's no feedback loop because everything is just on overload all the time. And
Right.
so you got to sort of gradually bring that down.
Right. Right. And the thing is that, I think one of the reasons people don't start a journey of health and fitness is they think it's going to be so hard. And it really is hard in the beginning, but it gets better. And if you don't do it, it's never going to get better. It's just going to get harder. So to me, that's like a logical choice. Like, do you want to just keep having it get harder? And like you're complaining today about aching joints and being overweight, not being able to tie your shoes and feeling disgusting in your clothes. And if you don't make the choice to change that, which will present challenges, you got to be disciplined. You're going to learn a lot about yourself. But if you don't do that, these are the good days for you because it's only going to get worse. And I don't think people realize that I don't think they realize that. And I'm 66, and I sometimes when I go to the doctor's office or whatever, and I see women and men younger than me struggling, and I just think, wow, you had a choice. You still have a choice, to change that narrative and be independent and be able to walk to the bathroom when you're 90. I mean, I want that more than anything. Is I want to be independent and be healthy and just go to sleep one night and then, leave this earth peacefully, not through some terrible disease or incapacitation. And I think the other thing is cognition and, cognitive abilities decline with age. Normally, that's not a big deal. But if you're not feeding your body, you're also not feeding your brain. Do you want to end up with Alzheimer's? Do you want to end up with dementia? Do you want to? And of course, if people get it, they don't know because it's a brain disease and there's no cognition about it. But the thought of that terrifies a lot of people. And I just feel like that, again, having the fear factor to change your behavior is a little bit like having the self-loathing factor change your behavior. It's got to be, you got to have a bigger why. You got to have something you can put your grip with your hands and say, okay, I get this. I get that if I take care of myself, this is the payoff that comes to me. And I had no idea that the payoff was going to be more than just being in a strong body. It changed the way I thought. It changed the way I approached my life. I mean, I had a whole reboot download of new software in my being from getting healthy because for the first time in decades, I felt good. I felt better. And that my brain health improved. My thinking improved. Everything improved. But we just stumble along for decades like I did in my 40s and 50s with, okay, I guess it's the best it can be. And that's just not true.
You told me something once, which was you get to pick your hard. And talking about here requires a little bit of conscious living, and that can be somewhat hard. Diabetes is hard. Cancer is hard. Heart disease is hard. Alzheimer's is hard. You get to pick.
Right. Right. And that was a phrase that I didn't come up with. I've seen it a lot where it's like, pick your hard. What do you want? And that word responsibility is, if you take it apart, it's your ability to respond. And so taking responsibility means, do you have the ability to respond to your current state of health and make choices and changes that are going to elevate you and help you live your best life, because we're living longer and longer. I mean, I think of my grandmother at 66. We're not the same kind of woman at all. The medical miracles that have happened and the research they're doing all the time. And it's just going to get more and more crowded with health, I would say, answers to all the ailments we have. And do you want to be around for that? And of course, if you don't feel well and you're really sick, no one wants to be around for that. But why walk that path? Why not have that ability to respond to where you are now and make changes? And really, people, David, in our age group, we have wisdom. We've lived some life. And yes, we can learn from young people, absolutely. But we know, we've seen it all, we've done it all, and we've tried so much. We know what works and doesn't work. Like, people know you have to move more and eat less. But why don't we do it? Everyone knows that's the key, but why don't we all do it? And I think it's just a matter of priorities for people as well. It's like, have they given up?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. And I'll just say, like, my motivation is, as Stacey Lennon told me, she said, bring the person you are today, not the person you were. So, like, there's a lot of stuff I just cannot, it doesn't matter what I do. I'm not going to be able to do the way I did when I was 20. Okay, whatever. But I want to be as useful and helpful and contributing as much as I can for as long as I can. In order to do that, I need to keep my physicality in shape. I need to be, I need to be able to tie my shoes. I need to be able to pick stuff up. If somebody needs help, I need to be able to respond and be able to do that, to contribute. Yeah. I want to be on that side of the equation rather than like, oh, geez, I can't pick this up or something. The two factors that I hear a lot, and I think we're all subject to these things, is sort of a cost benefit analysis. They're saying like, oh, if I do this much, it's going to hurt this much, cost this much, it won't work for me, I'm not going to try. That's not true. And then the other part that causes us to think that's not true is I'm not worth it. And you are worth it. You are absolutely worth it. And this stuff is really, this is not like rocket science. Like, we're not talking about anything here that was like some new scientific discovery. It's just like movement, nutrition, go to sleep, and take care of your stress. It's not about anything advanced here. And I feel like I want everybody to look at your Instagram. I want everybody to read your book, to understand that this is possible. As much as I love you, Julia, I don't think you're an extraordinary athlete. I don't think you're extraordinary.
About me, I'll be honest. I'm like everybody else.
You're just like everybody else. I am. Same as me. I don't have a medal at the Olympics.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people.
Yeah.
But it's just adherence. It's just sort of every day, and you make progress, and you say to yourself, it's that pat on the back. It's like, oh, you did that. That's really great.
Yeah.
What else can you do?
Yeah.
What are the things that we think are impossible? And each time that we do something, we achieve something like this, whatever it is, we lift a little more weight, we work a little longer, we feel a little better. It expands our imagination of what's possible, because as much as I can tell someone, you can do this, they're not going to believe me. What they're going to believe is evidence of themselves doing it. And they teach themselves. Like you, I was in a hospital for a year. I was a mess. I just almost died a few times. Nothing like what I am now. And it took me, some time to get back, but it's these little bits of progress. Oh, you can do this. You can do this a little more, a little more. And then it becomes a habit, and then it becomes a way of life.
Right.
But we have to, it's that self-responsibility. Like, it's as much as you and I can be cheerleaders for people, the thing that moves the needle is them seeing it for themselves and saying, this is possible. Oh my God, I can do this. I never thought I could.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's things that work against having that mindset. And one is that, everything moves so fast right now. I mean, order from Amazon in the morning, get it the same day, that kind of stuff. So we want everything now, 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 now. And the whole idea of being patient and allowing nature to take its course. And your body is nature. And I have this phrase I use a lot saying, you can't push a river. There's a natural flow to how your body functions in the physical world. And you can't push that process. If you want to push the process and lose 20 pounds in a month, yeah, you can do that, but you're not going to do it in a healthy way. And it's going to come right back with more. And I always think about how long it takes for a sperm fertilizes egg, and 9 months later, that precious baby is born. It takes 9 months for that physical body to form in nature and be born and be viable. And people want to see the same kind of changes in their own body. I mean, in a month or 2 months or 3 months, it ain't happening. Give yourself a year. Mm-hmm. Like a baby being born, a baby, being incubated in the uterus, being born, takes another maybe 3 months to get aware of its surroundings, even though some come out like, I'm here, I know what they're like so aware, but I give yourself a year. Some people say 90 days. Yeah, that's a start, but usually it's like out of the gate, rah, 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 motivation. And then at 3 months, you reach your goal. Then what? Now what? How do I sustain this pace? You can't. So you do it slowly, smartly, and you take every little thing you learn every day and you build on those habits, which that's what you're talking about, David. That's exactly, you build this, you build the self-trust, you build the habits. It becomes who you are. You're not on some program or diet or, fitness kick. This is who you are. This is how you live. And there's nothing more powerful than that. I mean, to get up in the morning and be excited to go to the gym and be confident in your body and how it feels, and that, you can get the suitcase up on the overhead when you're on an airplane without help. And I mean, to me, that's the payoff. Just being able to move through life at a speed that's enjoyable and that gives you pleasure, and you're healthy. God, what could be better than that?
There's a relaxed power in like owning who you are and saying like, okay, this is who I am. And I think that this is about a way of being, this idea of honoring ourselves. And in so doing, there's a certain sort of, I still have emotional up and down. I get like hate mail once in a while, and it's like riles me a little bit, but not nearly as much, because I feel better about who I am. And I think that the time thing here, TikTok time is 10 seconds.
Yeah.
But if you're an elite athlete, somebody who's like one of those like top 10 in the world sort of people, and none of us are. I know some of them. Actually, they train in my gym. They may like you want some inspiration to be around those people. They like a coach with them, they have a 2 or a 3 year plan. They're not thinking about in 3 months or in 6 months.
Right.
They're thinking 2 years, 3 years. Okay, these are the small actions we need to do, and we're going to build you up, and then you're going to have the confidence. You're going to be, wherever. I don't like if you saw like the Williams film
about Serena and Venus Williams
and their their father, and whatever you think of their methods, there's a process there, and the father's like, okay, this is gonna be 10 years. And that's very extraordinary people. And my point here is that echoing what you are saying, that it's not a TikTok time, it's a longer time, but that doesn't mean that every week we don't get victories. There aren't things that we can celebrate. There aren't those things that we can pat ourselves on the back. It's not like this grueling trudge for 3 years. It's not that. Right. It's every day we get up, we do something. It's like, okay, that was a victory. That's great. And it's like this. I'm sure like with you, there was, you told me after 3 months, you lost what, like 10 pounds or 20 pounds?
10 pounds, which was like,
boom. Yeah. Like that's a celebration. That's amazing. Oh my gosh, I did this. Look at where I'm going. Look at the journey I'm on. Look at my trajectory now versus where it was. We're ocean liners. The tugboat has to really push on the ocean liner. That moves at a couple of degrees, but that's all you need to do, because then the whole thing starts moving in a different direction. And that's, I'm feeling a little motivational speaker here. I'm going to calm down. That's what I'm thinking.
David, everything you're saying is so true. And I think that idea of the timing and that celebrating the wins is really, really important. And seeing the long view. I think that's the biggest thing. It's the long view. It's not, whatever that cliche is. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But it's the day in and day out. And you also mentioned we're human. We do have off days. We do. I mean, as positive as I am, and I live my life on the sunny side of the street, like you said, I'm human. I have days where I'm sad or I'm annoyed or I'm stressed. And what's happened is those are less and less, and I can weather them. And I think part of it was due to completing my competitions, which I've done for like the first 6 months of this year. It was pretty grueling. I had like a postpartum depression thing that started about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month ago. I was just sad. And I even said to my husband, I said, I don't know what's going on, but I just wake up in the morning and it was dark. I felt dark. I felt sad. I felt despondent. And there was nothing going on in my life that I could identify as being the cause. And I really, because I tend to be a spiritual person, I really wanted to get to how can I deal with this? Because I wouldn't say I was clinically depressed or anything like that. I don't have a history of that, but I would call it a dark night of soul. And I didn't know what was going on. And I decided that what I was going to do was going to just forget about the past, not think about the future, and live in the present moment. And I suddenly stepped into the calm in the center of the storm. It was like I had been in a hurricane, and I stepped out of that swirling hurricane into the center, this present moment, because this is all that's real. It's this present moment. And there was such peace and calm that I just stayed there. That's where I put my attention. And I would do long meditations where I would just be present in this moment. And it was like I connected with the center of who I was, that is peaceful and calm. And suddenly all that noise just went away. And it took a week, but now I know I have a tool, a technique that works for me, that when all that stuff gets stirred up, and I think this, because we're human, it happens, and I also think hormonally my body was out of whack from the competitions. And so there were a lot of things happening. And I just realized how incredible it is that really the present moment is all we have and all we're sure of. Yeah, absolutely. We can plan for the future, but the past is over. And let's plan for the future, but let it happen. Let it happen naturally. Don't obsess about it. Don't try and control it. Don't worry about it. Don't be anxious about it. It's like, do your best in this moment. And I think working out keeps me in the present moment. Just like the people that climb Mount Everest, I love mountain climbing books. And what I've noticed is all those people that are obsessed with climbing mountains are very high performers in life, either lawyers or doctors or someone who's like in their head all the time. The only way they can turn it off is to climb a mountain, because the only thing they have to worry about is, where's my next footstep going to go? They have to be 100% present, and all that noise goes away. And I think being healthy, we're more able to do that. And I know working out does that for me too. It just brings me right into the present moment, appreciative of what I can do physically. And I don't worry or think about anything else because I'm enjoying it, right? Whenever we're doing something we really love and we're in the zone, it's great. And training does that for me. Does it do that for you?
Yeah. I mean, I remember it was when last week, I think I told my team I was a little tired that day. I said, I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm going to take care of some things. And then 2:00, it was like, oh, yeah, I got to go to the gym. And the next day they just laughed like, yeah, that's what we thought.
Yeah, you needed to, right? You wanted to.
I knew I would feel better. And I want to say a little something here about exercise, and that I've had Joel Jamieson on the show. Joel's a MMA strength and conditioning coach, and he'll tell you you can only train to the extent that you can recover, and it's not about training as hard as you can. It's about finding the minimum intensity and the minimum volume that will cause the adaptation,
Mm-hmm.
and then stop.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's not going to work. You're just going to exhaust yourself and you're going to get hurt. And I think that it's very important to have a methodology, to have like a program. And I know that sounds sort of strict, but I think understanding, this progressive overload on your body and how much you can do in a day, and then how to recover, and then what does recovery feel like? And I think that that's something in the beginning, like you were saying with the food, sort of reach a certain level of reduced inflammation before you can even sort of feel how food affects you. And I think it's the same thing with exercise, like understanding, oh, I'm actually tired. Today's a down day, and understanding that this is not about going in there for 3 hours and like all out and then collapsing for a week.
Yeah.
There needs to be some guidance. This is what I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, this is the amazing nuance of fitness. It's the nuance of knowing your body and applying these principles of weight training and, fitness in a way that works for you, and absolutely finding the sweet spot and not overdoing it, not underdoing it, because you can get injured, especially if you are a more mature individual in age. You do not want to get injured. If anything hurts, you stop. But I think elite athletes know this really well, because the nuance of fitness is their fitness that's their career, that's their job, that's who they are. And they probably know better than anybody how to manage that. But on another level, we need to do that for ourselves too. And that's why the value of having a coach.
Super helpful. That's what I've been talking about this recently, about balance and stability. And so I've been going to physical therapy because I thought I had some problems with my toes, and they're like, yeah, your toes and your feet, but it's really your hips and your whole body mechanics. We need to fix this. And it's like, well, what do you mean? Like, I'm strong, I can do these. And they're like, yeah, we're not even going to, no. There's all kinds of stuff you need to learn.
Yeah, that nuance. It's the nuance.
That's the thing. Yeah. We've been talking a while. Julia, thank you so much. Tell everybody the name of your book.
It is My Power Decade. And the subtitle is A Story of Mindset, Weight Loss, Muscle Gain, and Reclaiming Health After Age 60.
And we're going to put a link to that in the show notes. What is your Instagram? Because it's awesome.
Yeah, it's Dolphinine, and that's Dolphin, INE, DOLPHININE. And that word just means dolphin-like, which is kind of joy, play, strength. That's kind of what I think of myself as being dolphin-like. I love the water. I'm a Pisces. I had a dream of being a dolphin. So it just stuck. I never changed it. But yeah, it's Julia Linn, Dolphinine.
You guys should all follow her. Super inspiring. You're the poster child for what can be versus what could have been.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that, David. I so appreciate the opportunity to share my story because gives people hope. It gives them hope. And I'll tell you, this is like, I haven't announced this anywhere, but I'm going to announce it here because it's you. But on July 27th of this month, that's in less than a couple weeks, I'm going to New York to be on Access Hollywood because they want me to tell my story. And I just feel like this is an opportunity again to give people hope. And I'm just super excited about it. A senior producer at NBC sent me an email and they asked, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So I'm just really excited about spreading that message of hope for people in our age group to know, if I can do it, you can do it. And I'm just such a cheerleader. That's all I want to do. I want women and men too, although women are really my client base. I just want them to know what's possible.
You are such a rock star. I don't watch much television, but for you, I'm going to watch television. I'm going to see this.
I don't watch television either. I didn't even know what Access Hollywood was. I had to look it up. It was like, oh, okay, well, it'll be fun.
That's great. Thanks so much for your time, Julia. I really appreciate it. And thank you for being in my life. It's really, I love talking to you. Every time we have a conversation, I feel better about me and the world. And
you're such a darling, great. David. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks so much.
You too.
Bye-bye. Isn't she wonderful? I mean, the power of inspiration. My gosh, whenever we think something is hard and we can't do it, there are people like Julia Linn that show us you can do it. So we're going to leave a link to her book. And her book is The Power Decade, a story of mindset, weight loss, muscle gain, and reclaiming health after age 60. So that's on Amazon right now. We're going to get with Just Try This after a quick word from our sponsor. Today's show is also brought to you by Element, spelled LMNT, my favorite electrolyte mix. One of the great findings that I learned last year was the importance of electrolytes in my water, especially sodium. Of course, if you have hypertension or you're pre-hypertensive, this is something you want to pay attention to. But for most of us, we're probably lacking electrolytes. And my favorite one is Element. And guess what? They just launched grapefruit. I'm actually drinking a Element grapefruit right now, and that's awesome. Go to drinkelement.com/Aegis. Get a free 8-serving sample pack. That's drinklmnt.com/Aegis. And get a free 8-serving sample pack with your next purchase. This week's tip comes courtesy of Malcolm Gladwell and the Buddhists. And what do those two things have in common? That you can change your mind. As Gladwell says, you have a brain. And one of the great things about having a brain is you're able to take in new information and make new opinions, make new decisions. And, for some of us, as we get a little older, it's like, you think like, oh, well, I know whatever. I have a firm, locked opinion on whatever based on information from, way back when. And I'm not going to look at any new information. But this week, the tip is when something new comes into your life, you don't have to just, for the sake of saving face or being steadfast, like just stay with whatever opinion or decision you have. You can change your mind. You have a brain. We can use it. And we can use it to change our thinking on things. Openness. That's the tip for the week. New information can possibly bring new decisions and new points of view. Just try this. Let me know how it goes. Next week on the show, we've got another great show. Oh my God, I just love doing these. Hey, and you can do us a favor. You can leave us up to a 5-star review. I know I should put this at the beginning of the show, but I don't know. It just seems a little too self-promotional for me. So I'm asking you right now. You can leave up to a 5-star review wherever you're listening to this. You can leave a comment, a good one, hopefully. And what we would really love is to encourage your friends, your family, the people that you know to subscribe to the podcast, download it, and listen. And if you want to contact me directly, I'm totally open to that. David@superage.com. I answer all of my email promptly and personally. Until next week, have a wonderful week, and we'll see y'all then.